Welcome to Why I Left, a podcast that explores the Great Resignation. I'm your host, Brian Aquart. Join me as I chronicle real stories from real people about the reasons they decided to leave their jobs during the pandemic and what has happened since. Hello, and thanks for tuning in to this episode of Why I Left. In today's episode, I chat with Jane Kisnica. Jane designs scroll-stopping content for business owners and SMEs looking to stand out and scale up online. Her story of sacrifice to reach her vision came with a few bumps along the way, but she's met great people and knows it was worth it. Let's go check out her story. All right, welcome back. So our guest today is Jane Kisnica. Jane is the founder of Content.By.Jane, a graphic design company. Now, she joins us to share her journey to self-employment and self-fulfillment. And I found her, as I most often do, through LinkedIn when she posted about this amazing milestone in her life. So I'm excited for her to be with us to tell us more about it. So hi, Jane. How you doing today?
Hi, I'm very good. I live in paradise, so I'm good every day.
I bet you are. And we are definitely going to get into that because I love, that's what I really love about your story, kind of this life you're living now. And we're definitely going to chat about that. And so I would love for our listeners, prior to be talking about, your career pivot and all those things, tell us a little bit about your upbringing and where you call home now.
Right. So I'm born in Latvia originally. I grew up in a town called Liepāja with obviously my parents. I'm the only child. Always felt like a bit of an outsider, I guess, in school. Didn't really quite fit in. Always had a bit of a different view on how things should be. I was quite curious as well. And those type of things usually aren't. Unless you're curious about the actual subject that you're being taught, people don't really appreciate you actually asking questions and going, oh, why do we need to do this? Why do we need to do that? What's the point of this? So I was kind of like one of those kids. And then I moved to London just after finishing high school because I traveled a lot as a kid because my dad worked for a European company. He was doing sales. I can't even remember what it was now, but there's something to do with sales. And we were traveling a lot when I was younger because he would go to loads of like exhibitions and events, things like that. And he always took me and mum with him. So I kind of by age, I think 10, 12, I had seen most of Europe. So I've traveled a lot. I've seen a lot. And I was like, okay, I don't want to, this Latvia is not for me. It's too small. I've seen how other people live in other countries. I was like, I want something more for my life. So as soon as I finished high school, I packed up my bag with my stuff and £200, £300 in my wallet and moved to London and lived with my best friend until I sort of sorted out job and where to stay and things like that. But yeah, that's sort of in a nutshell my childhood, I guess.
No, very nice. And now when you think about, some of the things that you've been passionate about professionally, what has that been?
I've always had a drive for creative side of things. So when I first moved to London, I was considering to be a photographer because I was really into photography. But then I kind of realized that I don't want to pay a lot of money to someone to tell me what to do. I want someone to pay me when they tell me what to do. So I just realized that school isn't really for me. And I couldn't, I struggled through high school and primary school. And the thought of spending another 3-4 years in university was just like, this is not for me. And then through my 20s, I pivoted from one thing to another. I probably had like 15 different jobs and careers. Sort of, I tried to be a model. I was a personal trainer. I worked in bars. I managed restaurants. So a lot of like hospitality background for quite a few years. And then I got older. Then I was like, I actually like my sleep and I don't want to work at weekends. So hospitality isn't for me. I've always sort of gotten involved with the creative side of things, whatever business I worked for. So either if it's helping with photos, because I can take a decent photo or social media. And then the last job that I had, my original plan was I wanted to be a personal assistant / executive assistant, because I thought I was kind of in a place in my life where I was like, I don't really know what I want to do with my life. I had a very long 6-year relationship I had just finished. I lived in Thailand for a bit as well. So I had moved back from Thailand. So it was like a lot of sort of everything was up in the air. And I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And then a friend of mine, she was working as a PA for, I think it was like Santander, one of the big banks. And she was making a lot of money and had several properties and things like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm quite good at organizing things. I like getting stuff done. I could probably be good at this. So I started working on getting into that career. I started working as a receptionist at a gym. And then the next step was I moved to be a receptionist for an office, recruitment office, which was a job that I held for I worked at the company for about 4.5 years. But I started as a receptionist and I got, again, involved with the creative side of things. So I started helping the marketing manager with some social media management. And then they realized that I can take a decent photo. So I started helping her with some photos around the office and taking headshots for people and all that sort of stuff. And then they, at one point, asked me to help them design a presentation or something like that for like a quarterly review, quarterly presentation thing. I did that and I did a decent job. They're like, oh, you're actually quite good at this. Do you want to go on some courses, like learn how to properly use Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and all that? I was like, yeah, well, if you're going to pay for it, why not? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've always believed in skill stacking. So if someone wants to teach me how to do something and pay for it, I'm like, great. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll try anything once. So they sent me on courses and I started just doing more design work and more marketing work. And then the manager at the company, marketing manager, left and they offered me the job. Didn't really have any experience, just the little few things that I've helped her with and some of the other stuff that I've done in the past for other businesses, but nothing concrete. And they offered me the job. In the beginning, it was a temp contract with if you do a good job over the next 6 months, we can offer you a permanent position. If not, if it doesn't work for us and doesn't work for you, we're going to give you plenty of notice. You can go and look for a new job. Like you can go and interview during working hours and whatnot. And I was like, you know what? 6 months. What do I have to lose? This might work out. This might be great. If it doesn't, I'm just going to go and continue doing what I was planning to do, become the personal assistant, whatever. And yeah, it worked out. I was at the business for about 4.5, 5, coming up to 5 years when I left. And yeah, that's sort of how I came to be where I am now.
Yeah. Yeah. And now would love to now transition a little bit, right? I want to take you back to March of 2020, right? And COVID really hits us and we're introduced to the pandemic. Now, where were you at the time when the pandemic started? Were you in England or in Europe, another place in Europe?
So I was in London. I actually remember going into I remember hearing about this COVID flu thing. Like at the time I was like, COVID's not real. This is just a flu. What's wrong with you people? Like you're over exaggerating type of thing. And yeah, I remember going into the office. I think it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe. I went to the office. My boss called me in for a meeting. He's like, because I was like freaking out. I was like, he's so serious. Like, what's going on? Am I getting fired? Like, what's happening? Right. And then he was like, yeah, like this whole COVID thing is getting really serious. Like, I think the government's going to shut everything down. Like, just get your stuff, get everything that you need. You're working from home for the foreseeable future. Because he was like, yeah, I can see that this is like the whole world's going to get shut down the way it's going. So you don't really need to be in the office. So just take everything that you need, all your whatever equipment, notebooks, everything that you need. Just go and you working from home for the foreseeable future. And then even at that stage, I was still like, what is this? It's just a flu and steroids. Like, this is not that bad. And then a month later, we were like in full blown lockdown, can't leave the house. We were like, I don't know how it was in America for the first few months, but we weren't allowed to leave the house apart from going to the shop. Like once a day. We weren't allowed to go for walks, we weren't allowed to do anything outdoors. We weren't allowed to leave apart from going to the shop. There was police everywhere and sort of checking in with people, and people weren't even allowed to like go to the shop and buy things that they don't need. So if you went to the shop and got a box of beer and some crisps and the police stopped you, you could actually get fines for leaving your house for non-necessities, because beer and crisps isn't a necessity that you need. So it was quite
Oh, wow. I actually didn't know that. So no, in America, I mean, here we had the lockdowns, right? But I mean, you could still move about freely. There was just really much nowhere to go, right? I'm in New York, and the city, I remember seeing the streets just like Times Square, obviously very touristy, but you think of, there's just a massive amount of humanity there, just empty, right? Like just completely empty. And that was just weird to see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And now when you think about it, now how did so obviously you're working remote, but how did your work change, if at all, in the marketing industry, which you were involved with during this time?
So it was just a lot of uncertainty for, I would say, 3-4 months. Every morning was I was waking up and thinking, am I going to get made redundant today? Because obviously all businesses are struggling. I knew that. Even the business I was working for was going through its own struggles, and they had like contingency plan after contingency plan. Like if this happens and, we're not allowed to recruit, this is what we're going to do. And then if this happens, and so there was like loads of planning. A lot of people were put on furlough. And then obviously because I was in marketing and I wasn't directly making any money as a recruitment consultant, I kind of felt like I'm dispensable. Like, if they're going to get rid of someone, I'm going to be the first one to go, because I'm just kind of, in a way, sucking money while everyone else has the potential to make money. I don't physically make money. Like, the stuff that I do makes money, but it's not as noticeable and as trackable. So it was just a lot of uncertainty, and it was weird, and it was quiet for quite a long time. So it was just me kind of trying to come up with things to do, because, well, nothing was happening. Everything was closed. And even though we were recruiting something, the activity wasn't like it was pre-COVID. It was very quiet, and there was a lot of change in how the recruitment was done and how things were going. And so, it was just a lot of uncertainty and just really weird, and made me think and reconsider a lot about just my employment situation and what I want to do in life.
And so during that time, what were some of the things that you started to learn?
So I think the biggest thing that I realized was that I miss my freedom. So I mentioned before that in my 20s, I lived in Thailand for a couple of years, and I was self-employed. I was doing a bit of modeling, and then I was just doing loads of different things, but I was essentially my own boss. I had my own schedule. If I wanted to take 4 days off, I could take 4 days off. I didn't have someone who told me when to clock in, when to clock out. Didn't have to ask for permission to go on holiday and all these type of things. And I just kind of started realizing that I miss that freedom. And I think it was because I was just locked in 4 walls, and I couldn't go to the gym. I couldn't see my friends. I couldn't leave the house. Thank God I had a massive garden, so I can spend those months outdoors at least. I don't know how people cooped up in tiny apartments, how they survived when they were not allowed to leave. But I just started realizing that I miss my freedom, and I want to travel. And I started realizing how much travel actually means to me, and how happy it makes me, and how when I'm traveling and seeing different places and different cultures and meeting new people, that's when I feel alive. And that sort of made me start to think about that office 9 to 5 might not be for me for long term. And those were sort of, the things that started going through my head.
No, I get it. And, we've talked to a lot of folks, obviously, on the show who've had similar types of experiences, right? You get that much time to yourself. You really get time to think, reflect on, well, what is it I really want, right? And so it's a perfect transition into, so now you're at this last company for almost 5 years, and you decided it was time to move on in August of 2022. So as the show knows, so why did you leave your job during the pandemic?
So I decided that I want to get my life back in summer 2021. That's when I kind of started thinking about things, talking to people, talking to coaches, and kind of trying to wrap my head around how I could make things happen that I wanted to happen. And then I tried to build my design business. Basically, what my thought process was: if someone's paying me a full-time salary to do graphic design, surely I can find enough people outside of, considering there's 8 billion people in the world, or nearly 8 billion, surely I can find 5-10 people a month, or maybe less, depending obviously on how much I charge and blah, 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 that can sustain me, that I can build the business from. Like, people are already paying me for this, so surely there are more people out there who are willing to pay me for doing something that they can't. So it took me a while to kind of get to that mindset and get rid of the scarcity. Oh, he's going to pay me. There's not enough people. There's enough designers out there, and all those sort of scarcity related thoughts. And then while I was trying to get rid of those, I started posting on Instagram, built myself like a little account, Content.By.Jane, and tried to build on there, but it didn't work. In about 6 months' time, my growth was really slow. It wasn't really getting anywhere. I wasn't getting any clients. And then I started noticing some big names on LinkedIn who have built their businesses solely from posting on the platform and just kind of building that personal brand. At the time, I kind of knew what personal branding was, because I was in marketing and the design sort of industry, but at the same time, haven't done it. I didn't know anyone personally who knows and does personal branding. So it was kind of one of those terms. I've always thought about personal branding, that it's something that influencers do to sell like useless crap to people and get endorsements. That's how sort of I thought of personal branding. Yeah, then a couple of people sort of popped up on my radar who seemed really cool, and they've literally gone from nothing to having 6-7 figure businesses solely through LinkedIn and through their personal brands. And I started thinking, maybe I can do this. Like, if they can, why can't I? Like, I have things to say. I have opinions. I'm pretty decent in what I do. Surely I can make this happen. So I made myself a promise in January 2022 that I'm just going to start posting on LinkedIn and see what happens and where it goes. And if it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere. I tried, but if it does lead to a couple of clients, great. I didn't have a massive plan, but it was just like, I'm just going to do this and see what happens. Yeah, first few months were really quiet. Nothing happened. And then around March, April time, things started to pick up, and I started to get clients. I started to get traction, all the sort of hours that I had put into engagement and just being on LinkedIn and building that personal brand started paying off. Yeah. And then around June, I realized that I'm basically working 2 full-time jobs. So I was getting up at 6 a.m., doing 2-3 hours on my freelance work, then doing my full-time job, 9 to 5, then took half an hour break, and then worked till 11 o'clock at night, midnight, worked pretty much every day, 7 days a week, maybe took half a day off every now and again, took like a day off on a Saturday to see my best mate, and that was about it. And I was like, okay, well, no, I'm getting all these clients, getting all this work. I'm literally working 2 full-time jobs. Don't really care about my full-time job anymore, because my whole focus is on my freelance clients and on my freelance stuff and on that and how well it's going. And I thought, you know what, I might as well try this. I'm doing well. I'm not trying that hard to get clients. All my clients were inbound. They still are. I haven't done I've never done any cold outreach or anything like that. Like everything's been inbound through LinkedIn. And I was like, I'm not even working on it that hard. I am showing up every day and I do like throw out some posts, but they're not really, I don't have a strategy. I'm not like super focused on this. I'm just kind of making sure that I spend some time on LinkedIn every day and I post something and kind of get that traction and engagement and whatnot. I thought, you know what, I might as well try this, because if it doesn't work, I can always find another job. But the way it's going now, it seems to be going well and I'm doing well. So I might as well try, because I'm not going to try it now. When am I going to, when am I going to do it?
Absolutely.
Sometime in June, I gave my notice. I gave like 2.5 months, because we had a big project on at the time and I didn't want to leave the business in like a shitty situation. And also my lease in London, my mom actually lives outside of London. So my lease in London was running out end of August. And I was like, okay, this is perfect timing. If I leave my full-time job, I'm also moving out of my place in London, which means that I don't have rent, I don't have bills. I can stay with my mom that's just outside of London. I can still, if I need to come into London, I can come into London. I can, take all my client calls and just work from my mom's and go from there. And it kind of just all felt right and all fell into place, and it was right timing for everything. And here I am.
I love your story. Look, I mentioned, seeing your post on LinkedIn, almost like that I did it type of post on LinkedIn,
it was,
and so look, you set out that goal to become more active, and look, it's gotten you here. Now, when you think about it, what are some of the top ways in which this decision to leave your job and now focus fully on Content.By.Jane, how has that impacted you to make that decision?
How it's impacted me since I made the decision,
well, just like to finally say, hey, you're basically working 2 jobs. Now it's like, I'm going to make the decision to leave my 9 to 5. How did it impact you to say, all right, I'm leaving now?
So when I did quit, it just felt right. It felt good. I was really nervous at the time, because I was like, oh, what if my clients like dry up and I can't pay the rent? And, what if this was just sort of like a little fluke and it's all just kind of crash and crumble and nothing's going to go anywhere. But at the same time, I was like, in the back of my head, I believe in intuition and gut feelings and all those type of things. And I've been unhappy in my full-time job for a while. It just wasn't, it was a comfy position. It was a comfy job. At the same time, I wasn't growing the way I wanted to. I wasn't developing the way I wanted to. And I also realized that I don't really want to do the marketing side of things, because I just don't, numbers, spreadsheets, Google Analytics, don't like it. Mm-hmm. And it's just when I finally did manage to sort of muster the courage and quit my job and give my notice to my boss, because I was absolutely terrified. I cornered him in a taxi. We were in a taxi. I think they were moving into a new office, they were looking for a new office, and they had signed up a new office, and he took me to the new office to have a look and take some photos. And then we were in a taxi way back, and I was like, oh my God, I need to have this conversation. If I'm not going to have this conversation with him now, I'm never going to do it. And I think he was going on like a 2-week holiday as well. And I was like, if he goes on holiday, then it's going to be like stretched out for, like, I need to do it now. And I just kind of like turned around to him and I was like, oh, I need to talk to you. And I just kind of burst and like blurted it out. And he just went, oh, okay. So, we had a very awkward conversation, but after that, it was just like, weight off my shoulders. It felt right. It felt really good. I felt really light and really happy. And I told him, I know we have this big project on. And I can stay till end of August so we can finish the project. I'm happy to stay for that long. And I also falls in with the time where my lease is running out. So it means that I'm moving out of London, and then I finished the job, and it kind of just all was right timing. And it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made for myself.
No, that's great to hear.
yeah. So yeah, it was just one of those things. As soon as I did it, and as soon as it came out of my mouth, I knew it was the right move for me. And I just knew the things are going to work out, and it's going to be fine. So
No,
yeah.
that's great. And now look, you've labeled yourself a graphic design extraordinaire, right? And after seeing your work, this is something that you wholeheartedly back up. I'm testifying to that, right?
Thank
You
you.
wholeheartedly back that up. And so tell us a little bit more about Content.By.Jane and the work that you do.
Oh, I didn't even know. Content.By.Jane is me. It's like, um, I just do my thing. I don't know. The work that I can talk about the work that I do. So, yeah, it's anything really design branding related. So I prefer to work with small businesses and solopreneurs because I'm just not, I don't know, I'm not in the mood for the big corporate stuff. It's just not me. I'm not that, it's not my personality. It's not my vibe. It's not the type of people I attract either. But yeah, I do logo design and brochures and slide decks and LinkedIn banners and Facebook banners and all the other social media banners and social media templates and things like that. And it's just a lot of creativity, which I love. I just get to do something different, even though the process of designing something is the same. It's using the same tools and the same sort of software and stuff. But at the same time, it's so different every day because you work with different people, different personalities, different branding, different design needs and all that. So it's just something that I really enjoy doing, which I never thought I would. Because yeah, up until a couple of years ago, that a graphic designer, that didn't even like cross my radar as a possible career option. But yeah, I absolutely love it, and it's one of the best decisions I could have, again, as I said, done for myself to go down this route, because it just makes me very happy and very excited for every
No,
day.
I love that. I love that. And now, a part of the show, what I always like to do is for my listeners, just to share some advice from our guests, right? So, when you think about this, what advice would you give to our listeners who may have a similar experience to yours, but really don't know what to do next?
You need to try, like for me, I've always, as I said, in my 20s, I had like loads of different jobs. And I tried loads of different things, and I kind of never shied away from taking opportunities or trying something new. And I think that's key into trying to find what it is that you like doing. And if you're in a job that you hate and you're kind of sitting there and going, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. I kind of want to get out, but I don't know what I can do. Start looking at things that you enjoy doing in your spare time. Start looking at things that other people tell you you're good at. Maybe you're, I don't know, incredibly good at painting, or you're very good at taking photos, or any this type of talent that you might have that you are kind of ignoring. Try to look at those and see what are those things that you do for other people, or things that you do in your spare time that you really enjoy and you are good at, or others tell you you are good at, and see if there's a way how you can start turning that into like a new business or maybe a new career path. Because you can always, I don't know, if you're super interested in photography, take an online photography course, or book an online, not an online, sorry, but like a photography class or something like that. Try doing these things in your spare time and see how it makes you feel, and see if you get really passionate and interested about it. And if you want to know everything about it, if you can do it in your spare time, then, and if you are feeling like that about this sort of little hobby or thing that you're trying, it's always worth exploring and seeing if that could maybe lead you somewhere. Because that's how I realized that I love design as much as I do. I was doing it obviously at work, and then I've realized I'm like, every time someone asks me to design something, I get really excited. Every time someone asks me to do something marketing related, I'm like, ugh, do I really have to? I don't want to. And then I started realizing that I'm also I can do this in my spare time. Like I would buy courses online and sit on a Saturday after work, after working all week. I would sit on a Saturday all day and sit through a branding course or logo design course or whatever. And I find it really interesting and it like holds my attention. And then I was like, oh, there might actually be something there. Maybe I can do this as a full-time job for myself or as a business because I'm just so curious and interested in this thing. So yeah, I think it's just being curious and open to exploring new things. If you can, get a coach or get a call with a coach, someone who helps with career paths or decisions, or you can find people online who coach digital nomads or freelancers or solopreneurs. Maybe find someone to talk to who can just sit there and listen to you, because that's what I did. I got on a call with a coach. I paid her like $300 for 2 hours of her time, and we just kind of went through what I've been doing, what I want to do. She helped me with some mindset things, and she literally helped me like place things into the right boxes and kind of go, yes, that light bulb moment. And actually, yeah, I can do this. Like there is enough room for me. And for me, it was a bit easier because obviously I knew that sort of design was the thing that I wanted to do. But there are people out there who can sit down with you and talk to you and talk through like your experiences, what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like, and the type of things you're drawn to, and actually help you point you towards new career possibilities and new career paths. So I think talking to other people is also very, very crucial, especially if you feel like really stuck and you're like, I literally have no idea what to do. Find someone to talk to who can listen to you and point you towards something that you might have never even thought about.
No, I like that. And now when you think about online content creation, right? So this is your space. What are Jane's top 3 pieces of advice when it comes to creating something online?
I would say try to be you. Like don't try to be someone else. Show your personality, show your humor, show who you are. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because it can be scary to post online. I know, especially if you move towards more personal topics or personal things. It can be really scary, but for me, it's one of the best things that I did for myself and my business is when every time I open up about my personal life or some struggles, I don't mean you have to like reveal all of your darkest secrets online, right? I just mean simple things like, oh, last week I had a really shit week because of X, Y, and Z, but I feel better this week. You can't believe how well those type of posts are received, because you show that you're human, you show that you're real, and you show that you struggle like everyone else, and everyone else can relate to that. So I think being relatable and being you, and kind of take advice from people and see what other people are doing and take away your own bits and pieces, but don't get stuck into some, I don't know, LinkedIn guru who tells you, don't post selfies and don't do this and don't do that. If you want to post a selfie, post a selfie. They work really well.
That's like a thing. Yeah, that's a thing right now. I've seen a few posts people are like going back and forth on like whether or not to do selfies, but sorry, I digress.
That's fine. Like it is true. So it's just be you. Just talk about the things that you're passionate about. Talk about them when you talk and you write online, especially when you write online, write like you talk. Don't try to sound smart. Don't use big, clever words. No one likes to be talked down at. People, they will more likely relate to you if you write the way you talk and you show your personality through your posts and through your content. So I think just staying true to who you are and not trying to be someone else is quite important. And also just be a nice human.
Oh, I love it. I like that. Well, Jane, I want to thank you for taking some time to speak with me today. It's been a pleasure, obviously, hearing your story, and would love for us to stay connected, and would love for you to share, where can our listeners find you and support you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is the best place. If you want to follow me and see my content, I talk a lot about mental health. There's some design stuff in there. And I talk a lot about mindset and just my personal experiences, and also my travels. Yeah, I assume my name's going to be written down somewhere right for this. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes,
And right now, where are you at? You're in Bali, right?
I am in Bali. Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
love
why
it.
I'm a bit sweaty. It's warm.
Oh, good.
But yeah, so LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn, or you can, if you want to book in a call with me or chat to me about design, you can do that on my website, which is Content.By.Jane.com. And there's a form there that you can fill out and pop me an email. So yeah, those are probably the two best places.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that info. And look, that'll do it for today's episode. Again, I want to thank my guest, Jane Kisnica, for joining me today. I'll be sure to share her info in the show notes. And so, look, I hope you all have a great week, and we'll definitely see you next time. Thanks again, Jane.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to Why I Left. Be sure to join us next time for more stories from the Great Resignation. Visit us at www.whyileft.co. That's whyileft.co. And subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.